Hey guys, so here bringing you another video and a welcome to my video about the 2026 League of Legends updates and changes. So I was very fortunate about a week ago, as of right now, I was invited to a developer meeting with Riot and the devs who kind of did all this stuff. As I'm launching this video, there will be obviously a video launched on their side and obviously all the kind of actual blogs that explain all this stuff. But this is my video. This is going to be more of a talking head video that I go through the points and actually just give my opinion on it. You know, I'm a player that's played the game over a decade, master EOS player, multiple roles. You know, I've got a pretty, I think, good, well-rounded opinion about the game. I obviously have my biases, no doubt, as we all do. But, you know, a lot of people who even maybe near my level would have been a top lane main for a decade or a mid lane main for a decade or even a one trick for a decade. And they'll have a very closed view of the game, where I think my view is a lot more well-rounded because I've played multiple roles. I still play multiple roles to this day. I've never one tricked, so I think my view is quite good, and it's not narrow. It's quite wide, and I think wider views are better for the masses. You know, because a wider view impacts more people. So obviously, feel free to go watch the Riot own videos. They'll obviously explain everything as well. The one thing is worth mentioning, I don't unfortunately have like videos. Riot has not supplied us with videos. So this again is going to be more of a talking head video. I have a couple pictures of things that I will bring up on the screen when relevant. But if you wanted to minimize this video and just kind of treat it as a podcast, that's fine. But I will try my best to make it interesting for you all. So worth mentioning, a couple of the things I would say about the updates is there's quite a few updates. Some are more cosmetic, some obviously are very big gameplay changes. I would say I am overall happy with it all. I think just getting that out of the bat is probably an important thing to most. You know, did I leave the dev meeting happy? Yes, I think I did. There is a couple things that I'm not as happy about, but I think that's pretty normal. You know, when there's, let's say, 12, 15, whatever changes, not being happy with two or three of them, I think that's probably a normal ratio for most people. So let's get into it. So as I said, we're going to go through the list of the changes. I may miss a couple things because there is quite a lot, but I'm going to try and go over the big important ones. So the first thing to say is the themes of Summoner's Rift and the themes that, you know, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 that we now have within a year. Obviously, this last year in 2025, we've had Noxus, Spirit Blossom, and then we went back to Summoner's kind of Rift base, but because we got the winter map a few weeks later. So that's kind of been the themes of this year. They are continuing themes going into next year, but one of the feedbacks that they actually got by, you know, player surveys and just general feedback was sometimes if you're going into, let's say, especially last year in Season 1, the map was very Noxus. And if people didn't love Noxus, they didn't like the thematic of Noxus, it actually made them not probably enjoy the game as much. So they are continuing champion map themes, but they're going to just tone it down a little bit, just a little bit. So I can announce, obviously, Season 1 is going to be Demacia. So I think this is obviously, you know, we kind of potentially knew this. There was a little bit of a leak a little while ago, but I think you could probably guess it anyway. I think if I had to guess, and I don't know any insider knowledge with this, but if they keep with, you know, themes for the next decade, I think the first, you know, the first theme of each year is going to be one of the major factions of League of Legends. So we had Noxus, now we've got Demacia. Well, Shurima is definitely a major faction. You could even say Bilgewater may be a major faction. So, you know, if you like one of the major factions of League of Legends, Freljord is probably a major faction. Yeah, I wouldn't expect maybe them mid-year. I might be wrong, but that's what I would expect, because obviously last year, or 2025 this year, we had the Spirit Blossom kind of under theme of Ionia be the mid-year theme. Well, that's not even Ionia. That was a theme within Ionia. So, like, that's the thing. So we're having Demacia. So it's going to kind of be like marbly gold blue accents. There is going to be obviously a cinematic that will be launching at the beginning of January featuring Demacian champions. There's a battle pass obviously for Act 1, and it will be kind of non-Demacian champions being given Demacian themed skins. So the example obviously that potentially is on the screen right now is the Cho'Gath one. So he's kind of being given a kind of statue look akin to Galio. So Gallia obviously is a Demacian statue, and Cho'Gath is kind of getting that look. Morgana will be getting a prestige skin in that. And yeah, they're kind of focusing on kind of old school Demacia, the golden age of them, maybe when there was a bit less war and everything was a bit more prosperous and rich. But I think that's pretty cool. I, for one, really like the themes when they do them on the map. Again, I've played the game for over a decade, so actually having changes and looks to the map that don't affect gameplay, it's just the look, I am all for it. And I know some people in the feedback have said, oh, I'd be completely fine with it if you could turn it off and you could have base Summoner's Rift and then you have Demacia or Noxus. The problem that you've got there is basically competitive integrity. There will be differences on Summoner's Rift to a Demacian map. Not technically, mechanically, but visually. And you could argue that if one of them is better than the other, then one person's got an advantage and one person doesn't. But if everyone is on the same map, then everyone has the exact same advantage or disadvantage. So that's why I don't think you'll ever have a feature to be able to turn off a theme on the map. But that's probably why they themselves said, we're just going to tone it down a little bit, just in case people didn't love it specifically. Next up is the big changes to actual League of Legends. So this is obviously for both ranked and normal draft. I will say I'm not going to be covering the Swift Play changes here, but Swift Play is getting a bunch of changes, in essence, to make it quicker and more accessible. It is worth mentioning, the Swift Play changes and even the normal and ranked Summoner's Rift changes. A lot of them you can definitely tell are for a purpose. Now, we didn't get told this specifically in the dev meeting, but just reading them and looking at them, it's to speed up the game a little bit by not just directly buffing champion damage, because when they just buffed champion damage, it got a bit silly, and then that's when we had that one-shot meta, and a lot of people left the game. So they don't want that to happen again. So how do you speed up the game without making just everybody one-shot everybody? You do other things that are more map-focused, and that's what they're doing. So if you're wondering why would they want to speed up the game, it's for youth. So Riot want to grow the game, and the only really pool of people that you've massively got that you can really aim a game to really is young people. They're the people that have all the time. You could argue they don't have the funds, but sometimes just the more players you have, the more money you'll be making anyway. And you have to remember, with League being over 15 years old now, when we all started playing the game, that 2009 is when the game came out. I think I started in 2010, so that was 15 years ago. I'm 31 right now, so I would have been 16 when I began playing the game, roughly. And I had a lot of time back then, and we've all aged with the game. And obviously for me, it's different. It's my job, so I'm still playing it a lot. But if you've progressed in your adult world, you did your degree, you've got a career, how much time does the average 30, 31-year-old have to play it now? Probably not as much as they did 15 years ago. That's kind of what's happened. So they are wanting to try and pitch the game to younger people by doing several changes that kind of, goes to more their vibe. And one of the vibes, and we'll get into the change in a second, is their attention spans aren't the best. That's why TikTok has taken over. YouTube Shorts is the main focus, because they don't want to sit there and wait for anything. They just want everything now in about 30 seconds. And speaking of 30 seconds, Summoner's Rift matches will now basically start 30-odd seconds before they used to. So when you entered a game of League, you have to wait to 1 minute 30, and that's when jungle monsters spawn and lane minions are happening. That's going to be happening 30, 35-odd seconds quicker now than it used to. So less waiting around, more getting into the game near enough straight away. Like, if you spawn in, by the time you run into your lane, you'll have like 30-odd seconds till the minions show up. So that obviously is getting into the action a lot quicker. This does have implications into the gameplay. So champions that may need some setup time, the main three that I can think of right now, Shaco, Heimer, Alawi, they will be impacted. That'll be, potentially at least one less Shaco box for his early jungle clear. That will be potentially, less time for Heimer to put his 3 turrets down and actually recharge to have them ready to go again. And Alawi, she wants to be in lane and start her passive tentacles spawning around. Well, that's going to be less of them as well. So setup time will be less at the beginning of the game. Invades are also going to be a little bit more interesting, because if you go for an invade, you have less time that you can go for an invade and then actually get to your lane. Let's say if you're playing bot lane and you're invading the enemy blue on, the other side of the map, well, it's the other side of the map. You've got less time to get back to bot. So it does kind of make some gameplay changes happen. As for actual gameplay mechanics, so they're adding and taking away mechanics. So the mechanics that they're adding is one called Phalites. So these are zones on the map that if you put a ward down in a Phalite area, it gets granted bonus vision. So basically, let's say you've got a ward and that's the normal circle on the map of where it gives vision. With a Phalite, it may be out here. It's going to grant extra vision. So kind of like a scrying orb, but a kind of buff area for a ward. And again, remember, don't make the mistake. Vision is power. Majority of games of League are determined by vision, because it's, oh, we got caught, we didn't have vision down, or whatever it may be. Oh, I got ganked again, I didn't know the jungler was coming. Vision is truly power, so that is a very powerful mechanic to have extra vision. Other things that they're adding, a brand new mechanic called Crystalline Overgrowth, which is basically a universal demolish. So I've been in the camp for a long time that I've actually wished towers to be much stronger and actually for them to take a lot more to kill. Like, I'm not, as a top lane main at the moment, I don't love that you're laning, it's really close, and the first time a set or a Jax or something like that gets to your tower, it's dead. Even in the early game, you're like, huh. And even when they get to their, okay, it's 15 minutes into the game, someone's gotten to a tier 2, well, that's dead in the first push. So I've actually wanted towers to become stronger, but they're not. And again, this again is kind of going to speeding up the game in a non, let's say, offensive way of making damage to champions too high. So if basically a tower has not been touched for quite a while, crystals will start form upon the tower. So this is trying to break stalemates, that if neither team is really making any progress into the enemy territory, the crystals will spawn on the tower, and it basically makes the tower brittle. And if anybody walks up to that tower and hits it, bam, it kind of smashes, and it does a lot more damage to the tower. It may not like one-shot the tower, but it will do a lot more damage, thus making the towers a little bit more just blowy-uppy if they've not been touched for a while. So again, speeding up the game. Upon that, Demolish is now being changed to a 3-hit passive, rather than the kind of tick, 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 and then a big amount of damage at the end. I personally don't know if that's technically a buff or a nerf. They haven't said. Plates will also remain on. Well, the wording here is plates will remain on plates. I think towers. Plates will remain on towers and have been added to inner and outer inhibitor towers, but there is no increased gold on the map. So basically, the tier 2 towers and the kind of the first tower in the enemy base in front of the inhibitor, they also now have plates. I imagine with the kind of akin that the more plates they have, the tankier the tower is, less plates, the kind of health or armor and magic resist and all that stuff goes down. Before we get into a major change, I'll say one mechanic they're taking away from Summoner's Rift, specifically the map, is Atakhan, the Bloody Roses, and Feet of Strength is now gone. So that is gone bye-bye. It was apparently what Riot said. It was always in the plan to get rid of them at the beginning of the year, because if you follow the cinematic universe of League of Legends, at the beginning of the year, LeBlanc kind of introduced Atakhan, the demon. She recruited him or whatever, controlled him. And then at the end of the year, obviously, Xin Zhao made the ultimate sacrifice to let Zehen take over his body and bring Zehen back into the real world. And obviously, Zehen killed Atakhan. So it was a natural point to get rid of Atakhan. And what Riot said is he was not universally loved. He was actually quite hated. The mechanic was very hated at the beginning of the year. They did make it healthier. When they did the change to him, there wasn't 2 forms and all that. They did put him in a pretty good place, I would say, but it still wasn't universally loved. And if it's not universally loved, what's the point keeping it? Especially when the plan was to get rid of it. So yeah, the Atakhan, Bloody Roses, and the Feet of Strength is now gone. Again, I quite liked Feet of Strength personally, but it's gone. So what is now becoming the major kind of goal, and you can definitely tell how it started, was Feet of Strength. So you could think of Feet of Strength as mini quests within the game, right? So get the first 3 kills, get the first 3 epic monsters killed, or get the first tower. So those are mini quests for your whole team to try and achieve together to earn your team a little bit of a bonus. So that's how kind of the kind of idea of quests began within the game. With Feat of Strength gone, it has made room for a different version of quests. These, I think, are going to be very controversial. I am mixed about it. I have an immediate opinion, but without playing it, it's going to be hard to determine if it's good or bad. But these are role quests. So top lane, mid lane, AD carry, jungle, support. Every role will now have a different quest, and when you achieve that quest, you will get granted something bonus. And these bonuses are quite strong. And this, again, like I said earlier, when you really kind of read into Riot want to grow the game, especially trying to target the youth, this is definitely, in theory, going to speed up the game. Without, again, it's that kind of combination of they want the game to be quicker without making everybody just one-shot everybody, because nobody liked that. So, going over the quests, obviously as a top lane main, this one massively raised my eyebrows. But and it's worth knowing what are the quests. We don't have a definitive list, and I actually don't even know. They might change every single game. But all they've said is this could be from CSing, fighting, getting towers, helping get objectives. Basically playing the game. You will be able to achieve these goals. And, maybe you'll have to, if your quest is to really help objectives, you'll have to focus that gameplay, kind of like Feat of Strength. So, top lane, upon achieving your quest, will gain an increased level cap. So, obviously, your champion's level cap at the moment is level 18. I think Riot said that might be going to level 20, so being able to get 2 extra levels. More XP from all sources, and access to teleport. So, summon a rift teleport, summon a spell teleport, you, as a top laner, will not technically have to take, because when you complete your quest, you are being given teleport as an extra bonus. Now, it's worth mentioning, it was already asked, what if you take teleport as your summoner spell, which you can still do? You will basically be given a empowered version of teleport, whether it, and they haven't said what specifically that is, but my guess, maybe the teleport cooldown goes down, maybe the teleport actually speeds up and you actually teleport somewhere quicker. But they haven't said what it is, but in essence, yeah, it's quite powerful. And what Riot said is this should incentivize a lot of top laners not to taking teleport anymore and actually going more combat-driven summoners. So taking more ignites, taking more ghosts, stuff like that. And like we said earlier, that's probably what the youth prefer. So that's probably why they're doing it. Mid laners. Very quickly about the level cap, because this was asked. Does this mean more actual summoner skill points in your QWE, etc.? No. So level cap will give you XP. Level cap will give you base stats. Base stats, by the way, are very strong. Levels, do not underestimate levels. So 2 extra levels is a bunch of stats. The only champion that they said would actually benefit from extra skill slots, as it were now, technically is Udyr. Because I believe when Udyr is level 18, he doesn't actually have full stats in everywhere. He'll be missing 2 points in one of his spells. Because again, his QWER, he can technically get them all to rank 5. But 4 times 5 is 20, and you only can get to level 18. But if you get to level 20, he'll be able to have rank 5 in all 4 of his spells. But Udyr is the only one that will actually benefit fully as of right now. Obviously, if a new champion comes, well, that changes. It may be different. Mid lane quest. Mid laners will get a free tier 3 boot upgrade and a faster recall. And it is worth mentioning, when I go through these, there is definitely 2 of the quests that stand out being a bit stronger. One of them is definitely top lane. Riot has admitted top lane, they said top lane has not been in the best state for quite a long time in terms of strength and also player satisfaction. So player satisfaction has been quite low in top lane. And I get it, you're the island lane, you don't get a lot of jungle help, and sometimes if the enemy jungler comes top lane, your jungler's like, what's top lane? So I can completely get why the satisfaction of top lane is quite low. So giving them strength from here, I think, is something that makes sense. Bot lane, and I would say this is the second one that I think is strong for the quests. So bot laners, so AD carry role, will get a lump sum of gold, increased gold for the rest of the game. So killing minions will give you more. And the big one is a 7th item slot. So for an AD carry, that is insane, by the way. And if you're wondering, really? Yeah, so the thing with AD carries is most builds cannot cover all components that you'd actually want as an AD carry. So if you're a crit AD carry and you want to get 100% crit, well, that's 4 items that you need and your boot. And then your last item, it might be a pure attack speed item, or it's a defensive item, or it's a lifesteal item, but you can't have all of it. Well, now with a 7th item slot, you can kind of cover off a lot more. That you could buy a Death's Dance or something. You could buy a Bloodthirster where it may normally not be in your build. So, and again, you get a lump sum of gold helping you get to that 7th item, and you get bonus gold for the rest of the game. So killing minions, killing champions, you'll be making more money to achieve a full build quicker. Because, make no mistake, the AD carry is the carry of League of Legends. So there's that one. Junglers will see Smite deal more damage, get more gold and XP from jungle camps, and bonus movement speed in the jungle. And then supports will get a discount on control wards, more gold over time, and a new control ward slot. That one I like, because again, for supports at the moment, if you get to full build, you can't really buy control wards, really. Well, this will be an extra slot that only is for control wards, so you can be a full build support and without being punished. Because either you have to be an item realistically down to buy control wards a lot, or you just don't buy control wards. So I think this is a good change. There are a bunch of new items returning. I'm not going to go over them in this specific video, but they are covering off a lot of the gaps in the game at the moment. And some people may be happy to know, but Hextech Gunblade is coming back. So that is very much a loved item in the community. So yes, that one is coming back specifically. I will say that. In Riot's own blog, they'll probably go over the items. Ranked changes. So obviously, as a pure ranked player, this is kind of my domain. And I would say within all of this, there's mostly good things, but there's a couple things that I didn't like. So, but we'll go over all of them, obviously. But for ranked, we're adding a climb indicator to the loading screen to show if someone's MMR is higher than their visible rank. So basically, it's this is a Smurf. That's basically what it's doing. Why would you want that, by the way? Well, especially for, streaming mode, which isn't really streamer mode, privacy mode, if you want to call it. It's actually harder to tell who's what rank because everyone's hiding their information. But this indicator will make you just kind of go, right, that person we need to be a little bit careful of. If they're the jungler or if they're the mid laner, it just kind of makes you kind of go, right, I don't want to do anything crazy risky here. So it's just an indicator to kind of help people keep on top of that, which I don't think is a bad thing. Next one is we're bringing Flex MMR closer to solo/duo MMR to make Flex games more fair. So, it is in essence to, if you kind of queue with a vast amount of people in Flex, it's very hard to matchmake. I think what they're saying is they're making the MMR and everything more almost hardcore, making it a bit more kind of technically more competitive. Which I don't think is a bad thing. Riot is improving autofill to better match autofill players by role. That's a good thing. And if they can't match people by role, it'll be the number of autofilled players. So if it's like, right, that team's got an autofilled jungler, we can't match them weirdly with another autofilled jungler, but that they've got 2 autofilled on this team, right? We'll try and make sure that the enemy team has also got 2 autofilled as well. But obviously, this is only if they can't. Realistically, if you've got an autofill jungler and the enemy, I'd say especially in Master and above, if one team's got an autofill jungler and the enemy team has got a main jungler, 9 times out of 10, the team with the autofill jungler is going to lose. It's too important of a role to have autofill in, but it is worth mentioning. Autofill is something that Riot has very much said that they can't really get rid of. But they are going to try and make it better for people by this next brand new mechanic called Aegis of Valor. And this, by the way, made me raise my eyebrows. And I do think there's good things to this, but I'm a little bit concerned that, right now, Grandmaster in the US is 800 LP. Challengers over, 1,000 LP. We've had people hit 3,000 LP before in the US. But I do worry that this is going to make the LP, especially in the Apex tiers, go a little bit crazy. So the new mechanic, Aegis of Valor, will reward you in autofill games with double LP for a win and a mitigation on a loss. So if you're autofilled, and this is for any rank, but if you're autofilled, what Riot was saying in the developer meeting is a lot of people kind of mentally switch off, going, I'm autofilled, I don't really care. And obviously that is part of the problem with role ranked. You know, when we used to back in the day, didn't have role ranked and everybody had to kind of be okay at every role, you just had to get on with it. But now in the last, what has it been, 5 odd years or whatever, a lot of people have only played mid lane for 5 years or AD carry for 5 years. People are a lot more specialist now than they've ever been. So when they get autofilled, they get in a right big huff and they go, oh, what's the point? Well, the point is, if you win that game, you're going to get double LP. And if you lose it, then you don't lose as much. And it is worth mentioning because some people go, oh, but if they then troll, they're not losing LP. Only if you're not trolling and you're not toxic. So if you are trying and you're trying to win, and the game can definitely tell you're trying to win, you'll either get double LP if you win the game, or you'll not lose any, or whatever. But if you're reported a bunch by running it down because you're tilted because you got autofilled and you've been reported by your team and you're punished, you will lose LP. So it is worth mentioning about that. It is worth mentioning as well, Aegis will also benefit players who play less popular roles. So when you go into the League of Legends right now and you queue up for solo queue, there's usually 2 roles that are highlighted as priority roles. If you queue as one of these roles, you're going to get into a game much quicker because not many people are queuing up as one of these roles. You're not going to get the Aegis benefit every time that you play one of these unpopular roles, but every now and then it's going to pop up in Champ Select saying you have the Aegis benefit this game. So this is obviously benefits people massively, and this is where I said this is where I worry about a little bit when it comes to Apex tiers, is if you're just a main of an unpopular role. Like top lane isn't that popular. Obviously, jungle isn't that popular. Support is very popular and high rating, but if you're just a jungle or a top lane main, like for me, I'm a top lane main right now. So every now and then, when I'm playing my actual main role, it's going to pop up going, you can gain double LP for this game, and I'll go, fantastic. But there's no negative to that at all. So I do find that's a little bit funny. It is worth mentioning as well, you will no longer be able to dodge to avoid being autofilled. So some people do that because you could basically go into a champ select, oh, I'm autofilled. If you dodged it, you go into another champ select and it's now, you know, it's reset. You're not necessarily being autofilled, that you might just get your main role. Now you cannot dodge to be autofilled. So if you're autofilled in one game, the next time you queue up, I think you're basically guaranteed to be autofilled the next game. And in master and above rank, that dodge counts as a full loss. So if you go into champ select as a master player and you go, oh, I'm just going to dodge it, I'm not on my main role, it just counts as a loss. Like, it's not just 10 LP loss, it's a full loss. And I did get partially worried about this, I will say, because, you know, wouldn't this just make trolling worse? That if a one trick has got autofilled and then they're just going to troll champ select? But there's no incentive, I don't think, for other people to dodge. Like, there is basically none, because you're going to lose a lot of LP anyway. So what they're trying to do is just basically decentivize people from trolling in champ select and just going, get on with it. You're autofilled, deal with it, try to win, you're going to gain double LP. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do it in a positive way, going, you may as well try. You're not going to lose any LP if you play this match, but if you dodge it, you're going to lose the LP. So you may as well play the game and give it a go. So that's what Riot's trying to do. Big champ select time, I think I may have mentioned it earlier, but yeah, champ select time has been lowered, so animations and all that type of thing has been kind of reduced to try and get champ select flowing quicker. The next one I didn't love, but yeah, duo queuing is back in Apex tier games, so it's obviously already been back here in the West in master level games for a while, and you know, it is quite noticeable when there's a duo in master, but they are returning duo to Grandmaster and Challenger. I really don't like this, and I would say in the developer meeting, I'm not going to like actually bring names into it, but obviously there were people in this meeting that I would recognize and you would also recognize, but there were people being like, really? And it's more that if you're a challenger player, and right now you're a pure solo, back in the day when they did allow duo queuing in challenger, these challenger players basically said, if 2 professional gamers, like pros, duoed together, you lost the game. Like, they're both incredible players and they're duoing. The advantage is too great. And obviously we had all the kind of insane manipulation to get rank 1 challenger over the years that people literally only duo to get there, you know, on boosting accounts and like sacrificing one account, and all this stuff was going on. It was a mess. There was a reason they got rid of it, and now they're bringing it back. It is worth mentioning, and they're bringing it back to all servers Riot controlled apart from Korea, because Korea doesn't want it, because Korea actually cares about competitive integrity. So that is worth mentioning. There's a reason why Korea are all better at gaming than us, because at the high levels, and I know if you're watching this right now, you go, oh, it's a video game. If you're in gold, it doesn't matter. If you're in Challenger, it does. Every single Challenger player really cares about the integrity of the game, every single one of them. And this, for some Challenger players, demoralize them thinking, well, I have to duo. Like, that's the thing, is if you feel you have to be pushed to do something, it makes the game a bit worse. So there's that. There's all Swift Play changes. So again, there is a separate, I think, blog all for Swift Play if you're interested in that. So there's that going on. The last one, and I will say it was included in this bullet point list, so I'm going to mention it, but it was not brought up in the developer meeting at all. And my only guess of why it wasn't, it's universally not liked by good players. That's why I don't think they bring it up in the developer meeting, but it's in this list, and all it says in this list is WASD is live tomorrow. So yeah, so by the look of this, they're going ahead with WSD controls. So to me, it's obviously I've given my point before. It's a very bad idea, and yes, the casuals will like it, and the not as good gamers will like it. They will. Like it's an easier way to play the game. That's why they're doing it. The youth will like it, and that's the main reason that they're doing it. By the way, is because the youth who they're trying to pitch the game to don't do like proper QWERTY and a mouse control anymore. They just don't. No other games really do it. So WASD movement is more modern. So that is why they're doing it. Now, all I would say, I think it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. And as I said, I don't think it's going to shake up the game too much in average tiers, but in higher tiers, I think it's going to be it's going to be bad. I personally don't think I'm going to adjust to it. I think I'm going to stay with the control scheme that I actually enjoy. And just hope Riot can balance it. You know, it's worth mentioning, I remember at the beginning when I said there's no way that that's going to be balanced unless they have to go in and change balance if someone's using that control scheme. And I remember people going, oh, they can't do that. That would be crazy. That's what they did on PBE in the last few months. If you were recognized using WSD control scheme, you were nerfed. Your character was nerfed. Attack speed was nerfed. Movement was nerfed because it is so much more powerful on certain champions. It is worth mentioning certain champions, it's terrible with it. Certain champions, it's overpowered completely. Vayne, Ezreal, Cassio, Kalista, Zeri, all of these are mental with it. Some of them aren't as good, like Anivia, not great. And also, WSD control scheme is actually a nerf to some characters in terms of WSD counters some champions. Anivia is one of my best examples, because right now, Anivia, with how her wall works, an opponent basically with the pathing of League of Legends, the wall actually can work really well of trapping people. Well, WSD, there's not going to be auto pathing for WSD users, so they're going to be able to like maneuver around a wall a lot better. So that's technically a nerf to Anivia. You know, it's stuff like that that I think is a bit dangerous. But anyway, that's going to be it. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. As I said, majority of the changes I really like. The ones that raise my eyebrow, obviously the massive one is WASD, if that is truly going ahead, which I didn't think it was going to, but okay. Other things, the role challenges raised my eyebrow, but not in a bad way. I think that's going to be quite interesting. But yeah, I think a lot of it is cool, but a lot of it is interesting. Now, just to go over, I think at least 2 more things that aren't in this update, but we got in the Q&A. I know, well, again, it was involved in the Q&A, so I think I'm allowed to say the answers to these because people asked them and Riot answered. So the first one is voice chat. So voice chat was brung up, and Riot's answer when someone said, "Oh, you bring voice chat," is no. So that was Riot's answer. They have no intention to explore voice chat. I think, again, it's a vocal minority that want it. And, you know, you could, in my mind, enable it in flex queue. You know, if you're wondering, like, what would you do then, Huz? What if you're going to bring it in, how would you bring it in? never in solo queue, because there are people that just want to play solo queue, and you're just going to give those players a disadvantage that want to continue playing solo queue. Like, I'm playing solo queue. I don't want to listen to random people. I don't want to hear someone shouting down a microphone. I don't want to talk to random people when I play the game. You could enable it by, like, in flex queue. So if you want to have that experience of talking to random people playing it, queue up in flex queue, and that may bring flex queue up in competitiveness, and that could be an idea. You know, they're already improving the MMR of flex queue, so maybe that's the plan. But Riot themselves, they just very much plainly answered it. There is no plans at all for voice chat, and I think that's a good thing, at least in my perspective. And I know there's some very vocal people that have the opposite view, but yeah. And then the other one, cheekily, we did ask about League of Legends 2.0. So obviously there is a massive rumor that there is a major update coming to League of Legends, being dubbed League of Legends 2.0. There is a little bit of fuel to the fire to this, so people did ask, and all Riot said, we can't comment on that. So all I would say is, reading into the answer of we can't comment about it, I think it's happening. Like, that's just in my opinion. If it wasn't happening, then they could basically have said, like, voice chat, no, it's not happening. They said we can't comment on it. Now, I don't know if, obviously, it's not real, and Riot has kind of said, like, you know, being, you know, publicity trained is a thing for employees who have, you know, developer meetings and stuff like that, because they know they're going to talk to content creators who are going to talk about everything. They may have been told it's not happening, but just say you can't comment on it, because that creates hype. Any hype is good hype. But I've spoken to a couple Rioters. None of them, by the way, have told me it's happening or not. But all of them have basically said the very much same thing, going, we can't comment on it right now. And I think the wording of that is just, I think it's happening. And by the way, I want it to happen. Making that very clear. You know, I'm not going to love every single change that is going into the game. It would be impossible to. You'd be insane if you liked everything. But League of Legends has been not stale, but it's an old game. You know, they've already said they're limited quite a lot by the old technology that, you know, was back in 2009. That's what the engine is based on. I think a brand new engine from the ground up that isn't spaghetti code. The rumor is 40 odd champions will be getting reworks or something on the launch of it. That would be kind of cool. I just think it's likely. The fact that the rumor is around, and the fact that Riot in a few different areas, as I said, we can't comment on it. I think it could be happening. I don't want to, like, say it is, but I think it could be, and I think that is a good thing, because anything just to get the game going again, I think is great. And obviously, last year, some of you may remember, Riot said, and it didn't happen in this year, saying League of Legends is going to change forever in 2025, and it didn't. Like, it hasn't changed forever. I think it was this big update that got delayed. If it's, by the sound of it being as big as it is, it's a huge project that could easily have been delayed a year. So I think it could be that. And that was the big change that was going to change League forever, but it got delayed. So that's my theory. But anyway, that's going to be it. Quite a long video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please do like it. You know, it does help out. It does help share the video. And comment down below, what's your favorite change? And what's the change that you're a bit like, oh, I don't like that? Let me know down below. There will not be a commentary on the video on the channel today, because this is coming out, I think, 2 hours before my normal video slot. But obviously check out Huzzy Extra, my second YouTube channel, that obviously there will be a commentary in a few hours' time. So that's going to be it. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace.
Welcome to the Rift, where the legends play. It's HuzzyGames bringing skill every day. From tips to tricks and play so fine. You'll learn the game and have a good time. Thanks for watching, you're the real MVP. Hit that like and sub, join the family tree. Like, comment and subscribe. Keep the Huzzy dream alive.